Alright, we're on to day 2. Let's look at it, and then let's get the new programming language logo. I've never heard of this. Okay, it seems like this programming language is actually for drawing, not for programming, so let's do another. C++. I mean, this is what I always use for LeetCode and interviews, so it should be easy. Just finished up the implementation for day 2, so let's get into it. Essentially, we're given these operations, adding 2 vectors, multiplying 2 vectors, and dividing 2 vectors. And they're described pretty succinctly here. And then we get given we start at coordinate 0.0, and we get given this input. And essentially, we have to perform these operations 3 times. So we multiply the starting thing by itself, divide it, and then add. And we do that 3 times. And we get the result. So part 1, you can see I have these multiply, divide, and add functions implemented. And they're just exactly the way described in code, using pairs instead of vectors. And then in part 2, essentially we get given a grid 101 by 100 by 1. And then for every point in the grid, we have to do this calculation, which is pretty much the same as above, except with bigger numbers. And then at any point, if the values exceed 10,000 or negative 10,000, we mark it as false, otherwise mark it as true. And then we count how many we mark as true. And this forms like a pattern, which you can see here. And yeah, essentially I have this should engrave function. So for every coordinate, we check whether or not we should engrave it, and if it falls outside of the bounds. And here's the actual function where we go through the 100 by 101 grid. You can see the pattern made is the same as in the input, though it's a little bit stretched out. Oh. Yeah. And then in part 3 we do the same, but it's 1001 by 1001 grid. So the only difference is here in part 3 is that it's 1000 by 1, 1000 by 1, and here we increment by 1 instead of 10 every time, because if we evenly space between the first and last coordinate in a bigger grid, the increments will be smaller. That's all. Thanks for watching. Oh, yeah, C++, the language. So I always use C++ in university and for all my LeetCode questions. I actually quite like it. It's just fun to type in. Things, for the most part, work well. I mean, some stuff is hard, like input files and just passing basic input, but yeah, I really like it. It's fun to use. The error messages are terrible when it doesn't work, but overall I give C++ 8 out of 10.